It's late. The engine light just came on, and your neighbor is already on his phone Googling the same problem you diagnosed 3 minutes ago just by listening. You didn't say anything. You just smiled and crouched down. Here's what nobody tells you about the kind of person who does that. Who goes quiet when something breaks. Who reaches for a wrench instead of a phone number. Psychologists who study this personality type have found something that surprises almost everyone. This person isn't just mechanically gifted. They are psychologically different, not a little different. Fundamentally, measurably, provably different in the way their brain handles stress, builds identity, and experiences satisfaction. There's a very good chance this video is about you. Your hood is up. The air smells of 5-30 and old coolant, not unpleasant, familiar. The smell of a problem you already know how to solve. You reach for the 10 bolt, the one that's always missing from everyone else's toolbox but never yours, and turn it exactly 2 clicks to the right. The seat in your car knows where your back sits. The steering wheel has worn smooth in the exact places your hands rest. Your left rear tire runs 5 psi lower than the others. You know this. You've always known this. Most people look at that and see stubbornness. Psychologists look at the same thing and see mastery. Here's something neuroscientists figured out that mechanics already knew. When your hands are solving a physical problem, a real, tangible problem, with a real answer, your brain cannot spiral at the same time. Not won't. Cannot. It's not willpower. It's not discipline. It's architecture. Your nervous system doesn't have the bandwidth to catastrophize and diagnose a knock sensor simultaneously. The physical demand pulls your mind out of the future where all anxiety lives and drops it into the present, into this bolt, this hose, this specific problem with a specific solution. Psychologists call this embodied cognition. Physical problem solving doesn't just use your brain, it regulates it. Every mechanic who's walked into a garage angry and walked out calm has felt this without ever having a name for it. Now you do. While the rest of the world manages stress by scrolling, adding more noise to an already overwhelmed system, you make something work again. That isn't a hobby. That's a mental health practice. It just smells like gear oil. Now, here's something nobody in this space ever talks about. Not everyone who picks up a wrench does it from the same place. There are 2 kinds of fixers. The first fixes things because broken things genuinely fascinate them. The gap between not working and working, that space right there, is where they feel most alive. These people tear apart something they already fixed just to understand it better. For them, the wrench isn't a tool. It's a love language. Then there's the second kind. The one who fixes everything because somewhere early in their life, being helpless wasn't just uncomfortable. It was dangerous. So their nervous system made a quiet decision: I will never be caught without an answer again. And competence became armor. The real villain was never the broken car, never the expensive dealership. The real villain is that specific quiet moment when a person decides a problem belongs to someone else. That surrender. That's what they've been selling you. Every time you pick up the wrench instead of the phone, you refuse to buy it. Which fixer are you? Your car isn't a machine you operate. It's a language you spent years learning to speak. You know the exact difference between the high-pitched whistle of a vacuum leak and the rhythmic metallic chirping of a worn serpentine belt. You can feel a misfire through the floor pan before the dashboard computer registers a fault. You know the heat radiating off a block you just shut down a temperature. Your skin reads before your hand makes contact. Not 6 months of driving taught you that. Not a year. 10,000 hours of paying attention taught you that. Psychologists call this proprioceptive extension, where a machine stops being something you operate and becomes something you wear, an extension of your nervous system. When something goes wrong, your body files the report before your brain opens the email. That shimmy through the steering column. That hesitation between second and third gear. That smell not burning oil, exactly hot metal, near something it shouldn't be near. That's not instinct. That's a precision diagnostic instrument. And it lives in your hands. Psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill. You get the new thing. The rush comes. You adapt. The rush fades. And quietly in the back of your mind, when's the next one? Not a year later. Not 6 months. 2 weeks. You stepped off that treadmill, not because you couldn't play the game, because your brain stopped finding the game worth playing. But I want to be honest with you for a second. There are nights in the garage that feel nothing like any of this. Nights where the bolt rounds off. Where the part you ordered is wrong, where you've been on cold concrete for 3 hours and the car still won't start, and you're not sure anymore if you're a mechanic or just someone making expensive mistakes in the dark. Nobody posts those nights, just you, the fluorescent light, the wrong part in your hand. But here's what that moment actually proves. You came back the next morning, not because someone made you, because something in you could not leave it broken. Psychologists call this an internal locus of control, the documented trait where setbacks register not as verdicts, but as information. Not "I can't do this," but "I don't know how to do this yet." Nobody taught you that. You taught yourself. There's a word for everything you've built across all those hours, all those mornings you came back, all those problems you stayed with until they weren't problems anymore. Psychologists call it sovereignty, not confidence. Confidence depends on outcomes. One bad streak and it collapses. Sovereignty is something older, something harder. The unshakable knowledge that regardless of what breaks you have the capability to respond, not fix everything, not control everything, respond. People who carry this trait recover from setbacks faster. They report higher life satisfaction. They experience failure as data, not as a verdict on their worth. Your neighbor outsourced his sovereignty the day he decided machines were someone else's problem. You kept yours, not in one big moment, in 1,000 quiet ones, every time you opened the hood instead of the app, every time you came back the morning after it beat you, every time you chose understanding over convenience. This was never about the car. Most people spend their whole lives trying to figure out who they are by buying things. You figured it out by fixing them. Own yourself. If this found you, you already know who to send it to. They won't say much. They never do. But they'll know.